You were with CNN.
I used to be with CNN International.
CNN International. What was the exact designation? What is the exact designation?
I used to be the producer.
Yeah. Hello, this is Professor Ujjwal Chaudhary, School Head of School of Media, Pearl Academy, in both the campuses Delhi and Mumbai. Today we have met here to discuss the new age journalism, their various skills, the issues, the challenges, talent, employability, everything connected to new age journalism, whether it's print, cyber or television, or a blend of all the three in context of India. And I have with me two very interesting guests. Someone here, Mr. Rohit Gandhi, who was a producer with CNN International, who was the editor-in-chief of YON, W-I-N, YON TV, a very international looking but Indian English channel. And today he runs his own media initiative, Democracy News Live. Along with him, we have a very popular anchor, a lead anchor of Network 18, CNN Network 18, Ms. Chaiti Narula. She would be speaking obviously with her background of ET and other channels, and currently in Network 18, should be speaking more on the television journalism part. So coming over, we are now in a very interesting age. We cannot say that journalism is a print media phenomenon or a television media phenomenon. It has become more of multimedia journalism. What do you think are one or two key developments as in this millennium, I mean last 15 years, let's say, in the field of journalism?
First of all, thank you Ujjwal for having me here. The idea would be to kind of begin talking a bit about what journalism is today. Really, it is about what we consume, right? Information that we have. There was a time people would pretty much take a newspaper, read that news. How do you consume news today? Most people consume it on their mobile phones. And when you talk about mobile phones, what you're talking about is they're looking at video most of the time, because most people are on the move, and it's audio visual content, it's video content. Right. So when we talk about consumption of news, it's going to be in the form of video or pictures and text to support it. So it has to be multimedia. There is no way around it. Even if we want
That's the point. It has to be multimedia. There is no way around it. And video and pictures are all the more important than what it was ever before.
So that's what people are watching. If you see most people's consumption when they actually are on their phone, you'll realize people watch a video, move on, watch a video, move on. That's what people are doing.
What sort of feedback you get now? You go on air and then you're also consumed on the mobile. How different is the feedback from your audiences?
So there are two kinds of audiences, I would say. One is your traditional audiences who still like to wake up in the morning with a cup of coffee over breakfast and watch news, and that's
the morning news.
Morning news, older generation, which is, I think, a dedicated audience that we've had for many years. And now you've got the millennial era of kids who are coming, who do not have the patience to tune in the morning and watch us say what we do. So what they do is, and a part of us being in the newsroom is also having an integrated newsroom for that purpose alone. Whatever is churned out on television, that content is also disseminated across social media platforms. That content gets replicated across websites as well, which is our own news websites. So that is where appointment viewing audiences do not tune in. So
that's the point. Integrated newsroom. Please explain that.
So integrated newsroom, as in there is content generation and content creators. That's what we are. So we focus on developing content, and the way it gets disseminated for different diaspora of audience is what the newsroom then ends up doing. So for television, you're watching it live. You want to watch the same content later, you can go on to our website news18.com and watch it live, or you could log on to our Twitter handle, which is giving you breaking news feed as well. At the end of the day, all of the content is same, but the manner in which they put it out for different target audiences has now become different.
That's good. You have a great exposure of international journalism. Washington Post has brought the concept of integrated newsroom quite early in life, or early in time, in comparison to other media initiatives around the world. They have even integrated print, because Washington Post primarily is print, has been, then internet and even video. So could you explain, now she has given a very good explanation with respect to television and internet, but if you bring in print and if you bring in audio news, how does this integrated newsroom work?
Washington Post was a very early starter in the content management system space to create that one digital newsroom. But even in India, we started in 2015 to integrate the whole division. We kind of created a platform called Spade, and the idea was to integrate television, print, all of it together in one place, because we saw synergies and we saw the ability of leveraging news much faster. So just to put it in simple words, video is coming in live from this event in London. You should be able to take that video and stream it directly to your audience on their mobile phones. Right. What has happened in the past, it would come to a television screen. Once the television screen processed it, then it would go land up in a mobile phone. Now that's gone out of the window. Yeah, yeah. You look at each of these audience, whether it's on mobile phone, whether it's listening to radio, whether it's reads a newspaper, then it's going to be tomorrow anyway, or it's watching television. It should be able to consume that content in its own fashion, in its own way. So you take that integrated approach. So we created the SPADE approach in 2015 when I was setting up the WION Newsroom, and we brought that same approach to DNA newspaper as well. Okay. And now we've carried that. We used the approach of SPADE. We partnered with International Federation of Journalists to bring that approach to India. So there is no way around the integrated newsroom. That's the idea. There is going to be no other idea, pretty much.
That's what an editor says. That's what an anchor says. And that's what I would like to point out. The very different. I have been fortunate enough to head several media schools in the country: Symbiosis Institute of Media and Communication, Whistling Woods International School of Communication, Amity School of Communication in Mumbai, NSHM Institute of Media and Communication in Calcutta. But the big difference that we are doing in Pearl is to bring this integrated newsroom concept into the classroom. There is no teaching of television journalism. There is no teaching of print journalism. It is multimedia journalism. It's convergent journalism. It's integrated journalism. And what they are practicing today, what Washington Post started long back, and India and Indian media houses are catching up now, is what we are bringing in our educational scenario. I just wanted to make this point before we move to the next context. I mean, related one. You just said integrated newsroom. What skill sets do you think are required today, and how are they different? You also have spent several years now, though you are relatively younger, but several years in journalism. What skill sets do you require to make a mark in the field of journalism today?
I think first things first, your content has to be very strong, which means that you need to go through a good journalism school to understand what journalism ethics are in the first place, your understanding of what is news and what is not. That only a journalism school and under good patronage you'll be able to do that, because a lot of people who become journalists without going to journalism school somewhere do not realize what makes for news and what doesn't make for news as well. So that's one very important thing, whether you like it or not. It's not as if being a lawyer, an LLB would make you a lawyer, but in journalism you can be a journalist without having studied journalism, but it helps if you've gone to a journalism school, one. B, you have to be well read, you have to be well spoken, you have to be well connected, you have to have the grit to be able to stay up odd hours, be it wake up at 3 in the morning and go to work like I do, or come back from work at 3 in the morning some days, be able to intersperse between those kind of schedules as well. If there is breaking news, there is breaking news, you get up and you go to work. Your flexibility is also very important. Your mindset, the way you think on your feet is very important. The manner in which you connect and develop your network base to be able to have the right kind of sources giving you credible information, because a lot of stories are source based these days, and your sources have to be credible. For that, you need to spend that much time on the field to develop, establish those contacts, that those people can have faith in you to be able to give you the information that they're about to give you. So these are basic, I think, predominant skills that every journalist today needs to have. And I'm an anchor now, but I have spent enough time in print reporting. I have spent enough time in television reporting. I've spent enough time on desk doing analysis as well. And then it is that I became an anchor. You just don't put somebody up as an anchor and come with an aspiration of becoming an anchor and think you're going to be able to do it.
That's something every youngster should know. You don't come out with an aspiration of being an anchor on day one unless you go through the entire process that Chaiti has just now.
And it can be frustrating. I would like to say that for a lot of people who just come out there starry-eyed to become an anchor, thinking that they'd like to be the face of the channel, it's not as hunky-dory as it seems, because you spend those enough years going through the sweat, in the sun, doing what you do, and that is when you will make the cut even to be an anchor, to be able to disseminate the information that is coming to you in the first place.
Let me add to this. As I've hired over the years for launching networks and channels, a lot of the young people come up to me and say, I want to be an anchor. Those are the guys I don't hire. Because that's not the individual I need. I want to hire people who are real journalists. People who are willing to go out in the field, get me an original story. I do not want to hire an anchor. A great anchor will be when they know what they're reporting about. They have original storytelling concept. They understand. The other point which she touched upon, and I think it's a very valid point, and we're seeing it even more necessary now for the journalism degree to be. Because what used to happen in the past, you could be a print journalist, you could be a great writer, you were a history student, and you would concentrate on that area. But today, with convergent journalism in place, you must have the skills how to handle video. You must have the skills how to handle audio. You must have the presentation skills.
Right.
If you don't have all
long
of that
form,
together,
short form, very brief, Twitter, various formats,
and you don't have a concept of all of that, you're going to be struggling with technology.
right?
You must have those skills plus the skills of why you're doing journalism. Well, that's missing. You're a great writer and you were a social activist, you don't have to be a journalist. Be a social activist.
Right.
You want to be a journalist, then have the concept of balance in your place. Don't go sell your soul outside and go and get married to political parties and then start, you know, practicing journalism. That's not journalism. You sold your soul. At least accept you've sold your soul.
Wait, don't sell your soul. There are some questions from the audience. I'd like to bring that. But this was a very important point, the need for professional education in journalism, professional training, technologically and ethics-wise.
Also, just to add to what he was saying, you can't just stop at being a reporter. You need to understand production, you need to understand editing,
Great.
you need
That's
to
the
understand
point.
writing, you
Right.
need to understand how to write to the visuals. Storytellers are not just storytellers. They are there to be able to say a story through a medium, and that medium requires certain very specific skill sets which will not happen unless and until you're trained into those skill sets as well. That's very important.
She has actually opened up the scope of what all you need to know to be an effective journalist in an era of convergence, in an era of multimedia journalism. There are certain questions. I'm happy that many of you have already logged in, and there are several questions that are coming in. So this Navda Garg, she asks, I've just given my 12th exams and want to pursue a career in this field, confused about universities and exams. I would like to say it's for you to find. It's for you to find what would you like to do and where. I can only say what we do. I've just now said, with respect to journalism, we bring in an integrated field of journalism where print, television, internet and audio or radio all are being integrated. And even news gathering, news producing, both functions being integrated. And they've already spoken about how you first need to be a journalist before you become an anchor or a presenter. As far as which university and all, it's for you to find out. We can only talk about what we do. Second thing, Khushbu Thadani says, what is the difference between journalism and mass communication? Unfortunately, many of the universities in this country talk about a course, a bachelor's or a master's in journalism and mass communication. I'm really appalled at this, because when we say I'm going to the market with my parents, I don't have to say parents and my father. Father is a part of the parents. Mass communication or communication in particular, journalism is a part of that. So while communication is a broader field, it brings in information, entertainment, persuasion, information which is journalism, entertainment which is entertainment, television, entertainment, cinema and all that, and persuasion which is brand communication, advertising, public relations and all that. So it's a broader field of which journalism is a niche. It's one of the specializations, and we consider it usually the #1 specialization because it talks about informing the society. There is a question from Kshitij Ojha. Is there a good scope in sports journalism? Would you like to speak on that?
Huge. You know, you have to see what the audience watches. Politics, sports,
Entertainment.
Right. These are the three big areas that people watch, and sports certainly a lot of people spend time on sports. So I always say we cater to, as a more futuristic society, we concentrate on going beyond just getting food and to people or finding shelter.
Right.
People need things in society to survive, and sports is one of those good things that we like to talk
May I
about.
add something?
Yes, please do.
It's not just about news channels hiring sports journalists these days. You have sport networks today.
Yes.
You have the emergence of IPLs and BPLs of the world today, which are giving you so many avenues to be a part of properties across the board. I have been myself associated as a presenter for many sporting activities, whether it is in Singapore, whether it is in India. There is a huge scope, there is a huge potential, but it again boils down to having that journalistic skill set to be able to be a sports broadcaster, and that skill set is no different than being a political broadcaster or a business broadcaster, to be very honest. It's just the subject is different and the contextualization is different.
I must add here, Chaiti has been anchoring shows on golf and polo.
And horse racing.
And horse racing.
Marathons.
Horse racing. These are very rare sports, and a lady anchoring shows on that is hardly seen. In fact, she has been a pioneer in that sense in this area. I would like to also add, several of my ex-students are in sports journalism. DD Sports, one of the seniors is Anil Thomas. There is Nikhil Naz in NDTV. There is Megha Chaturvedi in Network 18, and many more are there who are in sports. Chandresh Narayan has been a very senior sports journalist, another ex-student. I have seen the passion with which you have for sports gets expressed in sports journalism. If the question has been from Kshitij Ojha. So if you are passionate about sports and also passionate about taking news, views, visuals and information about sports to the audience, this is a great area to work in. Every news network, every newspaper, every news portal, and including sports organizations and events like IPL and all properties, they all need content developers in the domain of sports with the technical knowledge of sports. So it's a great career to be there. Kshitij, Ashi Ahuja, is asking, how is communication design different from mass communication? Communication design is the packaging of the communication, and mass communication is the content. The content has to be packaged in a particular manner. So graphics, animation, the use of colors, these are all part of communication design. But what goes in there, the slogan, the visuals, the content that goes in, the language, these part is the part of the communication or media and communication that comes in. So it's your choice. You want to be in the packaging, the designing part of it, or you want to be on the content development part of it. Both are equally good. It's your choice. Aditi Bhatia asks, what's the difference between journalism and media and communication? I think we are discussing that. That's already come in. Media and communication are of all forms of communication. It could be across all media channels, online, offline, on air, on ground and on mobile. And communication could be about all functions of communication: information, entertainment, persuasion, infotainment, edutainment, interaction, empowering, engaging, all functions of communication. So it could cover entertainment, that's like film, cinema, television, radio, entertainment. It would cover journalism, and it could also cover brand communication. So if you want to go into journalism, that's one of the forms. But it starts with understanding of entire media and communication, moves on to journalism as a specialization. We'll go ahead with other questions a bit later. There are more questions coming in. Every time I look into my mobile, there's one more question there. But let's go forward. This is the new concept of MOJO, mobile journalism. What is it, and why is it necessary? How is it being developed?
So when we started out in the 90s, really, with television journalism in India, we used to carry big cameras.
Yes, I remember that.
We had another recorder, you carry a big mic, or sound recordist would go out with you. What happened over a period of time, technology has gotten better and better. And the less obtrusive it becomes, the better journalism you can do.
Yes.
There was a time print journalists had more access, because when they went to cover a story, they were able to quickly slide in, pick up their content and come back. Us television journalists would go in a group of 4 people, and it was too many people. It was a problem area. A radio journalist would go single-handedly pick up great content and come back. I think MOJO has gotten us back into the forefront. We are now able to carry a mobile phone, a small microphone, go and do our story and come back out. Expenses have gone down from a company point of view. Beyond that, you can move much faster. I remember going to Afghanistan with 600 kilos of equipment. Literally, there was...
You need 10 million people to do
it. Correct, 50 bags. I had 2 trucks which I was carrying from front line to front line in 2001.
Under CNN International War?
Yeah, and even in Iraq, we were about 30 bags. This is 2003 in the war. But today when you look at it, people carry a small mobile phone, a microphone, a little lapel mic, a little light and a tripod, and you're good to go. And I think that's now empowered us in many ways. When people look at mobile journalism, they must look at it as their new empowerment.
When people look at mobile journalism or MOZO, they must look at this as their new empowerment. Very prophetic. I must note here, our Board of Studies or board of Advisors of the School of Media, of which Rohit is also an honorable member, we have Dr. Stephen Quinn, globally recognized as a scholar and expert of MOZO, now settled in UK but an Australian by birth. He is one of our mentors who conducts video conferencing courses on MOZO and also once in a year visits here. So I just wanted to mention that, and those who are listening to it, you can search him on Google, Dr. Stephen Quinn, Quinn, Stephen Quinn.
I'd like to add one
Yes,
point
please
about
do.
mobile journalism.
Yes.
I think mobile journalism is very empowering for citizens in this country at large. Even if you are not a journalist and all that you have is a mobile phone in your hand and you see something wrong that is happening and you'd like to report, all that you have to do is with this smartphone, click, take that video, send it to a news organization. The quality is good enough for us to air it, and we use that content many times after verification as well. So not only does it empower the citizens, even when we are not on duty out as journalists and we see something that needs to be recorded, it's very handy. And I think mobile journalism is very important for that reason, because then I don't need to carry a cameraman or a camera crew all the time, because this phone or any smartphones these days for that matter has fantastic quality, which is absolutely something that we can take on air and carry it as well.
And you need a training for that, and you also need a training to utilize in general journalism training.
Yeah, of course, but I'm talking about this being a tool of empowerment for a normal citizen who does not have the resources of moving around with a crew as well. All that you do is you
that
take
brings me to this question of citizens journalism. How far do you think it has caught up in India?
It has. That we do a lot of columns every single day. If some new development happens on my show itself, we just open the phone lines. We just tell people to give them their views as well. People do come forth and say a lot of things that they are otherwise scared to do, and now they get a platform to do it as well. With social media as well, they are speaking up. They've got a voice now. I think it's coming of age, and I think it's just a matter of time that channels like his allow the common citizens to come forth and write articles and speak up as well.
Yes, would you speak on that, please? Because you are already practicing that on your channel.
So let me add to what Chaiti said. She's brought up a very important point. Citizen journalism is what's driving news today. Any of the videos that actually makes it really big is not captured by journalists. If you see the stories, they usually come from the common man. Somebody's captured the story. You can pick up any story in the last 1 year. Tell me which one of those videos was captured by a journalist. I don't think so.
Breaking stories particularly.
But now that content is in, so we created an application just around that. Yes. We have an application for people to utilize, add that information and send it straight into our system. But here is what comes in as journalists. So let's say you're a trained journalist. When you get that information, you now get into the process of verification of this information.
Right.
We have a rule of verifying any news 3 times by 3 different sources.
Okay.
Until you have the verification from 3 different people, you don't run with that information. That is where fake is coming in, and we will talk about it, I'm sure. But recognizing what information is not concocted, it's just a video, you don't have information behind it, we don't just run it.
So there are whistleblowers who will end up sending us videos on a daily basis. It goes straight to the assignment desk, as we call it, of any news channel. The assignment desk has its own process of verifying that information. The editor gets in as well. And once it's verified, once we know that it's for a fact that has happened, we've gotten reactions, we build a story around it, and we also air it. But none of that is unverified information as well. So be a whistleblower, feel empowered, use your mobile phone, but don't think just because you've shot a video we're going to be able to carry it, because we will carry verified information.
Yeah, verified, it will be verified.
Because fake news is becoming a big issue today.
Undoubtedly, and we'll come on the fake and false news a little later. There is a question from Japji Singh. He wants to be in travel journalism, and my question to that, how much is specialization important? I mean, I understand there is a set of things that every journalist should know in the era of multimedia journalism, and many of that we have discussed. But how much is specialization, particularly business journalism, travel journalism, entertainment journalism, legal and criminal crime journalism, how much of specialization is important in your field? both in television or in integrated journalism, whatever, if you could.
I would like to talk in terms of business journalism. I think not everybody and anybody can get into business journalism and practice it. I think a formal degree in business is required for you to even understand or analyze what is wrong with the balance sheet, to be able to point out their numbers, or to be able to assess their financial ending results, or to be able to do a quarter-on-quarter analysis. If you do not know how to read a P&L or don't know the difference between a P&L and a balance sheet, there you go, you're not going to be able to make for a business journalist. So that background, despite having a journalistic degree, you need to have that. Otherwise, you'll not be able to make the cut in business journalism. And I've been a business journalism journalist for the large
with ET now.
Large part of my life. I started with CNBC, and then with ET now as well. So that specialization is very important. As far as legal is concerned, again, that specialization is very important, because you cannot be reporting matters that are sub judice. You need to have that basic understanding of the legal framework and structure. So an additional degree or a diploma or something in that particular specialized field does come in handy. As far as general news is concerned, your journalism degree would suffice, I guess.
Can I add to this? Now, I know the question talked about travel, talked about doing
entertainment,
lifestyle. Now, I have a big problem with this area. I'll explain to you why. I have pulled up a lot of journalists who would go working for these organizations. Here is a little hotel business which wants to take you on a free cruise, and you will go to that cruise and do a story and come back. I've called those journalists back and said, you dare put that story on my network and your job is gone. So recognizing PR and journalism are two different parts of the coin. Creating content for sales and native content for channels to make revenues off is a different story. That's not journalism. You do marketing, you do sales, and then you're doing just communication. You're not doing journalism. Journalism is when you take something really unique and explain it to your audience. For example, if you're a travel journalist and you travel to these far off destinations, or you travel to the mountains and explain what it's to climb these mountains, I look at that as journalism. But if you're going to tell me what a great hotel this is after you've been paid for being at the hotel, or what a great meal you've just had, that's not journalism. So please recognize there's a great area for it, because a lot of us consume that information, but recognize that's not journalism.
And I've worked with Rohit, because he's been my boss at WION as well, and he never allowed that to happen in his newsroom. And I can say for a fact that he was very much against it. And I think that's how it should be. If you want to be somebody who's promoting a brand or an extended PR arm of any particular organization, be in the branded content team of any news organization or of any network. There is a space for that. There is a space, and a legitimate one, for that. Branded content today is a field in itself, and yes, they will absorb you there, but then you're not a journalist. Then you are into marketing, sales, and branded content. We call that team also a special focus features, or back at Times Group we used to call it Avenues team. So there is a space for it. Not to say that one is ethical and the other one is unethical, but then you don't call yourself a journalist. You call yourself a branded content person.
Exactly.
So you have to make that differentiation.
This point must be made clear, what they have just now said, that while the area of travel lifestyle journalism is a big, wide area, a lot of content can be developed out of that. But there has to be unique news points or news angles to be made into a journalistic content, or else you can work in the marketing and sales or branded content, as you said, which is a form of advertorial, where a part of sales and a part of content comes in. But that's a legitimate thing. But that's not native journalism, as the term that he has used. Native journalism would require a pure news angle, or like for example, sustainability and tourism, heritage and tourism. If certain things can be developed on those lines, unique things can be reported, that's good. So
can I actually, I'm going to add to
this.
There
are several other questions.
Okay. I was shooting a golf show once.
Yes.
And the producer...
This is back in the day at WION.
The producer tried to plant a car at the back, which belonged to a brand. I am not going to have that car in the background. This is advertising.
Right.
And we are not an advertising network. We are a news network.
Right.
We bring value by the quality of information that the gentleman is supposed to provide in talking about how he runs businesses.
I put my foot down and when you're doing journalism, the promoter of that particular event who has invited you there wants a car parked in the background, you have to be putting your foot down and saying, no, we are.
Yeah,
don't talk to me.
Exactly.
You know, so you need to be able to distinguish. Between the two.
Yeah. So branded content versus native journalism, one concept. The question. MA in English literature now wants to come into journalism. Yes, you can, but as people have already explained, our experts have already explained, that you need to search attitudinal and otherwise, what's news and what's not. Understanding, again, going beyond news, features and other forms of content, you need to understand those and for which a training is required. And therefore, you need to do a master's again, whether it's 1 year or 2 year. Training in journalism before you get into the area.
In fact, people who do both, so who have a great degree in something else and then go and specialize in journalism, actually bring
more back.
Journalism, and then you became a business journalist, you would bring more value to the table because you understand what you're doing.
Exactly.
Similarly, as somebody with a BS.
Right.
Last point, while we're at this, I think contextualizing is will understand once you're in journalism school, because a lot of times if you've not been to a journalism school and content comes to you, you have to be able to sit there and assess, is this in public interest or not? Right. Whether to do, it has got to do with a celebrity, sure, but everything to do with a celebrity may or may not be in a public interest. If it's to do with a public servant as well, is it in public interest? Yes, it is. Then put it out. If it is his personal life, it's none of your business.
Right.
And you know, that's where somewhere the quality of journalism goes for a toss. But a lot of times those lines get blurred, and this is something a formal education can teach you, putting your in place as well.
Contextualization. Your prior education gives a contextualization, a degree gives you skills and the attitudes. Very well explained by the two experts here. There's one question here. How is Pearl Academy different from other universities? Now, with respect to media and communication, I'll just tell 2 or 3 points. One, we are digital, futuristic, cyber and integrated media education focused. So while we look at entertainment in the form of film and television and all, we also look at web entertainment. While we look at journalism, which is in the form of print and television, we also look at in a big way on integrated or convergent journalism. So that's one area. The second, perhaps, I can say with some confidence after this being my 5th institute that I'm heading in media and communication in the country, perhaps this is the only institute which brings in a professional diploma, globally and industrially recognized, along with a UGC recognized degree, and along with the option of completing a bachelor's degree or a master's degree in Torrens University in Australia, the last year being there. So, combination of international degree, Indian degree and a professional diploma. This is another aspect here. Also, we have the campuses in the heart of the city, unlike most universities, in Delhi and in Bombay. 65% of India's media economics is from Bombay and Delhi. So, whether it's journalism, entertainment or brand communication, large part of the decision making, large part of the corporates working in this field are in these 2 cities. So, these are some of the areas that can be told as unique areas. We are also very happy to note that unlike most other universities which are like primarily a management or an engineering university or college, we are a creative campus. So, our flagship course Pearl is known for fashion, then design, now media and also creative business. So, it's an ecosystem of creative and creative education. creativity and creative education. So, it is but natural continuation that we are in media and communication. Some of the distinguishing points. One of the things Rohit you picked up was on distinguishing between news and falsehood. So, I would not like to very much use the word fake, because fake by definition presumes that there is an original. So, if this is a fake Adidas shoe, that means there is an original Adidas shoe. But what we are talking is more false news. How do you really identify? Why has it become such a big issue today? How can it be combated? If you could throw some light on that.
So, 2 weeks ago, I wanted to kind of dig deeper. I reached out to the Press Council of India, the chairman. I went and met him, and we sat down and had a discussion around it. Now, a lot of journalists pinpointed and picked up and isolated for spreading fake news. That's a big, huge problem area. There is an effort to malign journalism. Similarly, there is an effort to malign judiciary as part of a whole scenario that we see. Make a mistake in the information he's given, that's not fake news.
Okay.
It's just news that when they put it out, information which they knew best. They did not. Fake or false news is when you know information and you on purpose present it as false information. And that happens a lot. And that is where the problem area is. And I think us as journalists who do proper verification, verifying that same information 3 times, we're not going to make that mistake. But there is such massive competition between the news networks and channels. Everybody in the first mistake.
Truth is a casualty in pace or speed.
Truth very much is a casualty in this competition, and I think which means when you have information unverified, then there must be something that strikes you down, which means people recognize. But I think that recognition is missing from within the industry, and at the same time, there is no way of clamping down on this. And I think as long as you will have good solid journalists in place running the information systems, and not just businessmen running the information systems, you'll be fine.
But it's very rare that a mainstream news channel would come up with such kind of news. They're always verified, they always put it out 100%. In the right manner. There's always a process followed of verification as well. So when you're watching mainstream news channels, it's very rare that there is a mistake made in information dissemination.
She's very right, but it's not as if we haven't seen mainstream news media put out fake information.
I think don't rely on information that's coming on your WhatsApp.
Yeah.
Information, Twitter handle, or a Facebook post of just about anybody.
Yeah, you remember that 2,000 rupee DNA? The
that was a conscious plant anyway. Now, one of the question that a question that is coming is, how do you look at it? A bachelor's education, I'm not talking a master's. The guy is asked.
Little response to something like this is, please look at the faculty which is going to be teaching. Because you may decide to study wherever you do, but look at the faculty which is teaching you. There must be specialists from the industry who've done this. And I went to a journalism school in India and abroad. Good. I have a master's degree from Pune, from FT. Years of journalism experience and communications experience. So look at that. More importantly, rather than thinking is it India or abroad, it doesn't matter. From my perspective, the path, and that's what's going to teach. And Chaiti has done a degree here.
Yes, and I think education at the end of the day is also about what you make of it. But again, if you want to be a practicing journalist in India, it helps studying and then look at doing a fellowship program from, say, Columbia University, or become a fellow at Harvard, Neiman, or, you know, there are so many opportunities for you to be able to do that, to be able to expand your horizon. If like law, where you need to study it in India. If you want to practice in India, I think if you want to be a journalist here, country, you typically go to one of the prime institutions of journalism within the country, get training from them, and when you have somebody like you at the helm of affairs, who's so well connected with the entire media fraternity, you know the best of the creme de la creme of the lot of journalists is going to come in. And study for what? For what? I mean, you can go abroad. Yes, nobody's stopping you from going abroad. Go and do it for the exposure. But if you think you're going to come back as a stronger journalist, I think no.
I would like to. Because you are just 18 now and you have just come out of school, it's important that you get a feel of the society. You actually do a hands-on journalism, feel of the society. Even if you are working in an English newspaper or English channel, if you go to the field, it's important to be trilingual. It's also important to understand the sociological aspects of the country, the economic. Or even if you have done masters here, go for a specialization, a fellowship, or a very, you know, I have seen my past students going for a specific course on gender studies or gender journalism. Someone who has done on entertainment journalism. Those are very good. You know, when you go for super specialized, focused, high-end perspectives. But create the perspectives first in this country. Before you go abroad.
Like he was saying. So I think the syllabus needs to have a fine and beautiful balance between theory and practical
Practice.
aspect of journalism.
And across
that is what-
multimedia.
and across multimedia. And that is what is practically required by the industry. So there is a gap, you're going to be able to fill it faster. Yeah.
On this, the last question that I would like to have from you. Often, many people say that there are not too many posts because it's the multimedia convergence, and so one person doing multiple jobs. And then, as you say, the technologies are also empowering. So, is there a scope, employability in journalism? How is it like?
You know, I want to be honest and say there is a lot more jobs today than there were 20 years ago.
That's good.
Because there are that many more platforms.
Right.
But what is missing, and over the years when I've gone and hired, I have realized what is missing is people don't want to step out and really go and do journalism. As long as you want to be an honest journalist, you want to go out and work hard, there is a job out there waiting for you. Nobody can stop you from creating great news content. There are literally hundreds of portals. It's not as if these portals are going to survive without having people. And that is one of the areas that you need to specialize in. As long as you're an honest journalist, as long as you're willing to go out, there is a job for you.
On this note, as long as you are going out doing hands-on journalism, practical, and has been told earlier, with skills that you can go multimedia, from print, television, internet, radio, or a blend of all these, there is a lot of scope. Because the platforms are far more than what it was at the turn of the millennium. On this note, we'll bring this to a close. We have taken as much as possible areas related to journalism and its education in this span of the last 55 minutes. I hope in your journey of understanding what journalism is, how journalism should be studied, why should it be studied, and what future lies there, I think in this journey you have got some more food for thought. And I hope you'd once again, if you are viewing it live, you will once again go back and view the recorded part. The link would be shared on our Facebook page of Pearl Academy. Once again view to understand the nuances. It's not every day that you get a leading anchor of the country and a leading editor of the country with international experience coming up together and sharing their experiences, their knowledge. So it's all up to you, because education today is not focused on teachers, but focused on learners. There is no teacher, there's only mentors. And learning is the focus of entire domain of education. So it's your quest, your search that makes the difference. On that, thanking you, we sign off.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.